All right, so for the longest time, we've kind of had this picture of ADHD, right? It was that restless kid in class, the one we all figured would just grow out of it. Well, it turns out that whole story is being completely rewritten. New research is showing us this huge, and I mean huge, population of adults who are only just now starting to make sense of their own restless minds. So yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to tackle the big question. How did a kid's disorder suddenly become an adult thing? Then we'll get into the symptoms you don't see. We'll peek inside the ADHD brain to see what's really going on. And, this is a big one, why women were so often missed. And finally, we'll look at how people are not just coping, but actually thriving with ADHD.
All right, first up, a new adult disorder? It's a pretty wild thought, isn't it? How a condition we always pinned on childhood is now a major adult diagnosis. So, what's changed?
Let's just start with a number. 15.5 million. That's how many American adults, according to the CDC, now have an ADHD diagnosis. But here's the real kicker. About half of them, almost 8 million people, got that diagnosis as adults. This isn't just a little blip on the radar. This is a massive shift in how we see this condition.
Which brings us right back to that core question, right? How did this thing we always link to kids suddenly become an adult thing? Did it just appear out of nowhere, or have we been missing it all along? And the answer is, we were missing it. For decades, the medical world genuinely believed that kids just outgrew ADHD, that their brains would mature, and poof, the symptoms would vanish. But we know now that's just not how it works. ADHD doesn't disappear. It sticks around, and actually, it changes its disguise.
So, if it's changing its disguise, what does it look like? That brings us to our next section, the ADHD you don't see. The whole key to understanding this rise in adult diagnoses is learning to spot these much more subtle, often hidden symptoms.
Okay, this slide just nails the difference. So you've got this stereotype, right? The kid who literally cannot stay on a seat. Well, as an adult, that same energy doesn't go away. It just turns into that feeling of intense, almost painful impatience when you're stuck at a red light or in a long grocery line. Or think about the kid who's always blurting things out in class. As an adult, that can look like constantly interrupting people. It's not about being rude, it's an impulse thing. It's the same engine, just a different car.
And Dr. Craig Sermon, an expert over at Mass General, really puts a fine point on it. He says that, the super obvious hyper stuff, the fidgeting, the running around, that tends to dial down in adulthood. But the internal battle, the inattentive side, the struggle to focus, that often sticks around and can be just as intense as ever.
Okay, so we know what the symptoms look like, but what's actually going on upstairs? Let's dive into the science, because this is super important. ADHD is about how a brain is built. It's a neurodevelopmental condition. We're talking about brain wiring, not some kind of personality or character flaw.
The first thing you have to know is that ADHD is, for the most part, genetic. We're talking about an 80% hereditary link here. That's huge. It means it absolutely runs in families, passed down through genes that literally shape how the brain develops and functions.
So let's get into the brain chemistry. A huge player here is dopamine. You can think of it as the get up and go chemical in your brain. It's what drives motivation, focus, and that feeling of reward when you finish something. Now, in an ADHD brain, that dopamine system is kind of wonky. It can get used up faster, which makes it incredibly difficult to stick with a task or even feel motivated to start it.
And dopamine isn't working alone. Its partner in crime is norepinephrine. This is more of your alertness chemical. It controls your attention and keeps you engaged. And these two, dopamine and norepinephrine, are exactly what the most common ADHD medications target. The whole idea is to help bring that chemical system back into a better balance.
Now, while genetics is the main event, it's not the only thing. Research shows that other factors can play a role too. Things like the mother's health during pregnancy, or even a child's exposure to environmental toxins like lead can also contribute to the risk.
Okay, we need to talk about this next part because it's a massive piece of the puzzle. For so long, our entire understanding of ADHD was built on studies of one very specific group, hyperactive little boys. And because of that, we created this huge blind spot. And who fell right through the cracks? Women.
I mean, listen to this from Dr. John Rady at Harvard. Women are one of the most undiagnosed demographics of ADHD. Let that sink in. It's not that women don't have it, it's that for generations what they were experiencing was being called something else entirely.
So why were they missed?
Well, a few big reasons. For one, women are more likely to have the inattentive type. They're not bouncing off the wall, so it's less disruptive and just easier to ignore. Instead, their symptoms get internalized and often get mislabeled as anxiety or depression. And here's another huge factor: hormones. Big shifts during menstruation or menopause can basically unmask or amplify ADHD symptoms that were always there, which is why so many women finally get diagnosed in their 30s, 40s, or even later.
And that complexity isn't just about women. The truth is, for most adults, ADHD rarely shows up to the party alone. It often brings friends, like anxiety, depression, sleep issues, you name it. This overlap can make getting a clean, correct diagnosis really, really tricky for everyone involved.
Now, I know this can all sound a little heavy, but the story doesn't stop at the challenges. In fact, getting a diagnosis is often the beginning of a whole new, much better chapter. So let's pivot and talk about how people can actually thrive with ADHD.
So what does that path forward look like? It's actually pretty straightforward. Step 1, get a proper, thorough evaluation from a professional who gets it. Step 2, look at your treatment options. That might be medication, it might be therapy like CBT, or maybe a mix of things. And step 3, and this one is so important, start to reframe it. Stop focusing only on the challenges and start looking for the hidden strengths.
And I want to leave you with this thought from Dr. Reddy again. He says, yes, the challenges are real, but so are the tremendous gifts. Things like creativity, curiosity, and this incredible ability to hyper-focus on something you're passionate about. See, in the end, understanding ADHD isn't just about fixing a problem. It's about learning how to drive a different kind of high-performance engine. It's about harnessing a different way of thinking that once you get it, can do amazing things. So maybe the question to leave with isn't just, do I have ADHD? But now that I understand my brain, what am I truly capable of?